So, what are we going to cover tonight? Well, as I said, I'm going to give you a brief overview of Upgrade Democracy, the plans, what's going to be going on each day. Obviously, that's going to be a very summary format. There are much more detailed schedules being worked on, but I just want to help you decide when you might want to volunteer for a shift. Then I'm going to spend a little bit of time just briefly describing each of the roles. So I'm going to go through the Rebel Toolkit page, briefly describing the roles and approximately how many people we need in each shift. Then I'm going to very, very quickly show you the sign-up form, just so you understand how it works. Now, our real aim tonight's a little bit different from other roles fairs, is that we would like to get everybody who's here signed up for at least one role, at least one shift for one role. So we've got just over 1,000 shifts to fill and 237 of them filled so far. So hopefully by the end of tonight, we'll have a few more filled. And in order to help you do that, we're going to be going, after you've listened to me speaking, about 8 o'clock, we're going to go into breakout rooms where you pick the role you're most interested in, go and talk to someone in there, make sure it's for you. If you think that is the role for you, that's great. You can fill in the form and you're done. If that's maybe not the role you want, then after that breakout session, which will be approximately 20 minutes, you come back to the main room, you'll go then into a second breakout. You get a second chance at finding a role for you. Again, hopefully that's right. You fill in the form, you're done. If not, come back again and your third chance to hear about a different role. And hopefully after having heard about 3 roles, you'll find one that you think suits you. So without further ado, I will very quickly go through what's happening each day at Upgrade Democracy. So it starts on Thursday, the 29th of August, but that day is primarily for setup crew. So really it's sort of production logistics teams who'll be needed that day, and only those people primarily will be camping overnight. So main main people will be turning up on Friday, the 30th of August. 9 o'clock in the morning, the camp opens, so we'll need some people there ready to welcome rebels. We're sort of expecting people to turn up mostly during Friday morning and Friday afternoon. And then we've got our first actual event, our action. We move off of the campsite, off of Home Park in Windsor, and we march round to the castle where there's an action happening 6 o'clock on that Friday evening. Then we come back to the camp by 8 o'clock. Little bit of things go on that evening. And then we just need a skeleton crew providing night cover and security overnight. Get up bright and early on Saturday for briefings at 9 o'clock, I think they are there. And then off we go again to actions at the castle, both in the morning and in the afternoon. In the afternoon, we have the mass assembly, which is also off-site by the castle. So we don't get back to the camp until 5 o'clock, when all the camp activities like the fun fair, talks and trainings and things start off, and they go on until the evening. And then again, we need a skeleton crew overnight. And then we come round to Sunday, where again, early start, briefings, and then off we go to the castle. And then we come back about 2 o'clock for a closing ceremony. And then everybody's breaking down the camp, helping to clear up. We need to be completely off-site by 5 p.m. So there are no other activities on Sunday. There's no fun fair or talks and training. All those sorts of things are happening on the Friday and the Saturday. So hopefully that gives you enough of an outline of what's happening each day. And then just so you understand the shifts, we've put them into notional sort of 4-hour blocks. So you've got 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's the breakfast shift. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Sorry. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the breakfast shift. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is part of the night shift. The main shifts in green would be 10 till 2, 2 till 6, and 6 till 10 in the evening. And then again, we start the night shifts from sort of 10 till 2 a.m. So if you've never done an action support role, I would recommend you choose one of the daytime shifts. If you've got some experience, those nighttime shifts are always the hardest to fill, and we need a few stewards, a few wellbeing and first aid, and a few outreach just to give us some security so that everybody else can sleep soundly in their tents overnight. So again, if you're willing to do one of those shifts, we really will appreciate it. It actually is a lovely team who do those overnight shifts, but for most people, choose the green ones during the day. Right, I'm now going to jump, and if my computer works properly and lets me open up the Rebel toolkit, I'm going to jump into the Rebel toolkit where it's going to show you the, here we go, yes, there we are. Hopefully you can see volunteer roles at Upgrade Democracy. So we'll be sending you the links to all this afterwards. I know some of you have seen it already. So on here is the link to how you can sign up. If you need to change any of your shifts after you've already signed up, it's exactly the same form. Just remember to use the same email address. Unless, I know there's one or two people who want to do a couple of different roles, try and sign up with a different email address if that's what you want to do. But for most people, we're asking just one shift. And if you've already signed up and you've forgotten what shifts you signed up for, we've also made a form. You just put your email address in, it'll send you an email telling you what you signed up for. So let's go through the key roles that we've got. And one of our most important ones that we're really trying to recruit for is outreach, because we're trying to reach members of the public in Windsor. I mean, it's not much use if we all go and have a lovely picnic in Home Park in Windsor and talk to ourselves. You know, we're primarily out there trying to talk to other people. There's a couple of training sessions coming up for this as well. And I don't want people to think that it's always talking to like angry members of the public. This is kind of one of the nicer roles. In general, you are talking to people who are interested, because if they're not interested, they walk on by. There's going to be a number of different outreach hubs happening, one probably at the campsite, but most of them will be sprinkled around Windsor with kind of survey boards and other ways of interacting with the public. Now, for each of the jobs, there's a little box above which says see, okay, here it says see outreach shift, the volunteers needed. If you click on it, it will open up a little chart, and this is refreshed every hour depending how many people have signed up. Blue means some people have signed up, so one person has signed up for 6 till 10 o'clock on Friday, and red is where we really need people. So we've estimated we still need 20 people for these shifts. So if at all possible, if you're interested in outreach, we'd like you to volunteer for one of the shifts where we've still got red vacancies. Okay, so now I'm going to briefly go through the other roles. Stewarding, you probably recognise stewarding. These are the people who wear the pink vests. A kind of generalist role that tends to cover all sorts of different things, keeping people safe, primarily needed when we've got marches running. So you'll see we've already got some stewards signed up, and these big peaks are when we're running larger marches, and there's a smaller march on Friday. As well as general stewards, if you've stewarded before and you're interested in it, we are looking for some lead stewards who will lead small teams of other stewards. And we also need a couple of access buddy stewards. These are to help people who've got maybe mobility issues, can't make their own way from the station to the campsite or something. People who just generally need a helping hand. So we have access buddy stewards. And then, as I've already mentioned, campsite stewards overnight. Road taking, only needed when we have a march. So nice and simple. You're actually not needed for the whole 4 hours. So if you don't want a 4-hour role, choose road taking or consider it. Wellbeing, looking after people's emotional and mental well-being, manning things like the first aid space and the quiet space. And you can see we need wellbeing crew most of the day. We don't need them overnight on Thursday, but we also include one of the wellbeing people overnight every night as well. First aid, we do need less first aid. We'd welcome any rebels who've got first aid skills, but we're actually looking for people who've got, first aid certificates. So you've passed an exam and you've actually had that training. So we need basically, a minimum of one first aider. And when we're off site, we need a first aider to be off site and a first aider to be on site. So 2 is the peak we need. We'd welcome more. And what will happen if we have more? You'll be working with the wellbeing team anyway. Okay. De-escalation or embedding non-violence. These are the people who wear the white bibs, and they come in useful, again, particularly when we have marches. Due to the sort of geography around Windsor, it's likely that we are going to be holding up the traffic at times for quite some time. So we're definitely going to need de-escalators when we've got marches going on. And we also sometimes need de-escalators in the evening, sort of when people are coming out of pubs and we need to dissuade them from coming near the campsite. So again, some de-escalators can be useful at that time of day. And I'm also recommending, even if you don't think you're going to do the de-escalating role, it's a very useful skill to learn. And they've put on a number of training sessions. So it's worth going along to those training sessions, even if you're not going to take that role specifically, because it's a useful skill in every role. Sustenance, so these are the people who are going to feed us. So absolutely critical. We need people to prepare the food as well as serve the food. So again, we've got what appears to be quite a big crew, but some of those are serving, some are preparing, and we need them most days, as well as preparing for the people who are doing setup. Sanitation. We've got a nice throne for you there. Some people think this is not a very glamorous role, but it's absolutely critical. So as well as dealing with, making sure the portaloos turn up on site and are put where they need to be, don't worry, you're not expected to clean out the portaloos. We have the hire company deals with that. But things like litter picking, XR is renowned for leaving sites in a better state than they were when we arrived. So a very important part of making sure that XR, leaves the whole site in a better place than we found it. And again, we've got a crew that we need most days. We need sanitation. Logistics. Now, this is a special role because as well as needing them actually on site, we also need them before the event and after the event at the warehouse in London. So there may be some people who can't come to Windsor, but are available to actually volunteer in this role for some jobs in London before and after the event. Of course, we'd love it if you can come to Windsor as well. And again, logistics is also needed. You'll notice there a big peak on the Thursday because they're needed to help set up the site. And again, a big peak when everybody's breaking up the site to make sure everything gets packed away. They'll also be transporting some equipment that's needed for, say, the mass assembly to where we're doing the mass assembly. That will probably be things like cargo bikes. Sound and power, the people who make sure everyone can be heard. We're not going to have a big sort of main stage. It's probably going to be more sort of rickshaw level type sound and power, but we still do need some people with sound and power specialist skills. And if you're interested in that area, again, I'm sure they'd be keen to take on new members in that crew and you can learn the job as you go along. Art blockers. So art blockers, this is the team that, again, a bit like Outreach, they're trying to plan a stand somewhere in Windsor to reach out to the general public, as well as probably a stand on the campsite when we're on the campsite. Obviously, when there's no rebels on the campsite, they won't be running that site. Their shift patterns are actually probably going to be slightly different because they've warned me that this is a physically intensive job. But just sign up for sort of an approximate time when you're available and they'll welcome you into their team and sort you out when you can best fit in. Welcome Hub. So this is a small hub. We're probably not going to get a very big public footfall through the campsite, but this hub is very important, particularly on Friday, for welcoming rebels when they arrive and directing them to where they're going to go and put their tents up. In general, when there's lots of talks and trainings going on, people will come up and say, oh, when's this talk happening? Or I want to particularly interested in this one, or where's the mass assembly? What's that about? So it's going to be next to the Stewards Hub and we're going to be manning it between stewards, outreach, and if we can get some dedicated volunteers, that will be fantastic. It's to make sure everybody who comes feels looked after and has got somewhere they can go to if they've got questions that need answering. We won't be running the Welcome Hub overnight, but the Stewards Hub will stay open 24 hours a day. That's where the night shift crew will be. And then we're getting near the end. So banner and flag holders. So this is like an entry level role. and it's used when we've got a march. So again, it's not needed for the whole 4 hours. The very sort of beginner role is just holding a flag. So that would be, we'll supply the flags and you just need to hold the flags. Particularly important that when we're taking photographs, this is how XR raises its funds. We want nice pictures that show XR flags and a nice tightly held banner. So we want a group of people who'll be given flags standing just behind the front team who are holding the main banner. That's a bit more skilled. You'll be trained how to keep it taut, how to make sure it doesn't flap about in the wind. But these roles are crucial to make sure that we get good photos, and that's how we help to raise money that enables us to go on our actions. Talks and training speakers. So there's a packed program of talks and training, and we need some people to deliver that training. You don't necessarily need to know the material beforehand, although it obviously is an advantage to have seen your presentation before you actually deliver it. But there are plenty of training courses being put on. And if you volunteer for this role, rest assured, you'll be briefed and you'll be given all the support you need before you actually deliver your training. There's another role which sounds similar, but it's slightly different. This is a street speaker role. And this is where you have a talk, either one that you've decided yourself you want to give, or one that's been given to you. And you can give these impromptu talks. They're very short, mainly to maybe sort of alongside outreach or out to the public or just out to other rebels. So these are more sort of bite-size talks that you give yourself at a time that suits you. Assembly facilitator. So hopefully you all know that on Saturday afternoon, we're trying to run a mass assembly, thousands of people sitting down. So again, we need facilitators to help the small groups of people who will be having their discussions during that mass assembly. You don't need to have been an experienced facilitator. Training will be given to you before you get to Windsor so that you know what you're doing. And your main role is to help small groups of rebels who will be kind of managing themselves through the mass assembly process. But we always find some get stuck, some need a little bit of help, maybe with the tech or something. So you'll be there to help them out. Okay, and then we have a small number of roles. Maybe you can't actually come to Windsor. Well, we have some roles either before the event. If you live near Windsor, we need some help doing recce's or talking to local establishments where people who maybe use an electric wheelchair need to be able to recharge their wheelchair. Often going in and having a word with the cafe beforehand can make all those sorts of things happen much more easily. Or during the time that the event is running, again, even if you can't come to Windsor, we need someone who can sit at home and monitor all of the chats. So all of the various different teams, they have either Signal or Telegram chats going on. And it's very difficult to keep track of that when you're on site and you're busy. But someone at home just looking at those chats, seeing if someone's got stuck, someone's not getting an answer. Again, an incredibly valuable role that helps make those people who are on the ground in Windsor have an even better experience. And we've also got a role for mapping. So this is someone who knows how to use Google My Maps and will take in information from all the various teams and help to add it to a map so that everyone who's there has got all the information that they need. Primarily, that's a pre-event role, so you could volunteer for that in addition to taking on a shift. And finally, we'd welcome you if there's a role that or a skill that you think you've got that I haven't talked about, and you'd really like to help us out in Windsor, and you've got something you'd like to be able to bring. We've got an other category, so you can type in other in the form and fill in your own role, and then we'll capture you that way as well. So that's all of the different roles. So now I'm very briefly, in the next 5 minutes, just going to go through the form. So Tom or someone is probably going to put this into the chat soon, and you'll have this form in the chat when you're in the breakout rooms as well. But I'm just going to show you through the form. So obviously it thinks it's me signing in again. So I'll just sign in. You put your first name and your last name, and you put your email in. Anything that's got a little star by it, you must fill in. It won't let you complete the form if you don't fill those in. Now, here's the most important button. All those roles I talked about, they're all here in a great long list. and you need to pick one of those roles, or you can say, well, there's nothing in there in my list, and then it will ask you another question. Okay, what's this role? So I don't know. I can mow grass. There we are. So there you are. I think I'd be excellent at mowing the grass. That's the skill I want to bring. So you can put anything you want in there as an extra role, but typically, you'd be filling in one of the predefined roles. Hopefully by now you are able to say yes to the next question, which is, do you know which shifts you want to do? If you didn't, it won't ask you any more questions, but please try and fill in the shifts, because otherwise Tom and I will be sending you emails. At the moment, every few days. As we get closer to the event, it will be every day, maybe even several times a day, until you actually pick a shift. So try and say yes. And then you've got the different days. And depending which days you say yes to, it will ask you extra questions. So, okay, I'm not going to come and do Thursday. Friday, yes. So now you see all the shift times pop up on Friday. And then Saturday, again, all the shift times pop up on Saturday. And Sunday, all the shift times would pop up. So I don't know, I'm going to mow the grass Sunday afternoon. Do you have any accessibility issues? We really work hard to make sure that roles are accessible to everyone. I have to say quite a lot of the roles require mobility, but there are several that are completely static. So working in the Welcome Hub, for example, is sitting down on a chair behind a desk answering people's questions. And many of things like food preparation, again, you're sitting down whilst it's a physical task, you're sitting in one spot. But if you've got any accessibility needs, put them in there and we'll pick them up. Your mobile number's not mandatory, but it is helpful because it enables us to help overcome any issues you've got joining Telegram chats or whatever. And if there's anything else you want to tell us, so up the top here, I could have put grass mower, and here is the place to write a great long explanation of how wonderful you are at mowing grass, the fact I've got my own lawn mower that I'd like to bring, whatever. So you put all your long text in the bottom. And if you've never signed up for XR before, you'll need to tick the I agree box for GDPR. And you just say, yes, I will help. And that's it. When you click that button, I don't want to do it now because it'll send me another email, you will immediately see a screen which says, thank you very much. And, you're going to get added, you're going to get sent an email, which should arrive within the next 5 minutes. And that email will welcome you to the crew team you've just volunteered for, and it will give you a link to the particular Telegram or Signal chat used by that crew. Now, if you don't get that email, I would recommend you leave the screen on that tells you it's going to come, because if you don't get that email, there's a link to send an email to us to tell us that you haven't got the email. And then we can get in touch with you and we can try and sort you out. But again, when we send you the email after this session, we'll put the contact details in if you get stuck and can't get further on. As I mentioned to you before, once you've gone through all this and time's coming up closer to Windsor and you've forgotten what it was you signed up for and what shift you signed up for, again, there is a link, another form, but a much, much simpler one, this one, where all you need to do, and it should remember who you are, is just hit that button and it will send you an email telling you what shifts you signed up for. We find that's a very common question just before the events. And the last one, hopefully you're all going to come join us camping. Smithy, my dog, and I have dug our old tent out of the shed, made sure it's not got too big holes in it, and so we're looking forward to camping. We do have a limited number of spaces for any rebels who have accessibility needs and want to come and stay in a camper van. The council have allowed us to park a few camper vans for rebels with access needs. So that's also available on the same form. Just fill in the camping form there.